In the cold silence of a winter night, snow fell gently across the dense forest near a quiet American town. There, in a small wooden cabin surrounded by tall pine trees, lived a man named Elias. He was old, gray-haired, and alone. Years had passed since he had last spoken to anyone for more than a few minutes. The forest had become his home, his comfort, and his prison. Elias lived a simple life. He chopped wood, read old books, and stared at the fireplace as the hours passed. His only companions were the howling wind and the memories he tried so hard to forget. One evening, as a storm rolled in, lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder cracked like a warning from the heavens. Rain began to fall, and soon it turned into a thick snowstorm. The forest groaned under the weight of the wind. Then, a sound broke through it all, a loud crash. It did not sound like a falling tree. It was sharper, heavier. It came from deep within the woods, not far from his cabin. Elias stood by the window, frowning. That was no animal. Something had come down from the sky. He reached for his flashlight and wrapped himself in a thick coat. With slow, cautious steps, he stepped outside. The snow was falling harder now. It covered his boots as he walked into the trees. The beam from his flashlight cut through the darkness. Branches snapped beneath his feet. He followed the noise until he saw something strange. A long trail in the snow, like something had crashed and dragged across the ground. His heart pounded as he moved closer. There, lying in the snow, was a girl. Her skin shimmered softly in the darkness, almost glowing. Her hair was silver, wet from the storm, and her eyes were closed. She looked young, barely an adult. Thin clothes clung to her as her body trembled. Her breathing was weak. She had no shoes, no coat, nothing that made sense. Elias knelt beside her. He checked her pulse. She was alive, but barely. She was not normal, not human, but she was hurt, and he could not leave her there without another thought. He lifted her gently in his arms and carried her back to the cabin. Inside, the fire burned warm and bright. He laid her on the couch and wrapped her in blankets. Her skin was cold, but her body radiated heat from within. He placed a damp cloth on her forehead and waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally, her eyes opened, bright, shimmering, like the stars had been trapped in her gaze. She sat up suddenly, confused and afraid. She looked around the room with wide eyes. Her breathing quickened. Elias raised both hands slowly and spoke in a calm voice. "It's all right. You're safe now." She didn't seem to understand. Her eyes darted to the door, then to the fire, then back to him. He spoke again, slower this time. "You were hurt. I brought you here. You're going to be okay." She stared at him for a moment, then looked down at her hands. Her fingers glowed faintly, a soft white light tracing along her veins. Elias watched in silence. He had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing like this. He gave her a cup of water. She held it awkwardly, unsure how to drink. He showed her with his own. She copied him, drank, then looked at him again. He said his name, Elias. She blinked, then pointed at herself. "Sailor." Her voice was soft and full of wonder. Over the next hour, she began to copy his words, simple ones: fire, water, warm, cold. She repeated them slowly. Her accent was strange, like music spoken in broken pieces. But she was learning fast then. As Elias sat beside the fire, she spoke a full sentence. "I am not from here." The words echoed through the cabin. He turned toward her, unsure what to say. Her eyes held sadness and fear. He nodded slowly. "I figured." She looked at the fire, then at the window. Her body shifted uncomfortably beneath the blanket. Her skin began to glow brighter, a golden hue now, not white. Her breathing changed, faster. Her hands gripped the edge of the couch. Elias stood. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer. She held her chest tightly, as if something inside her was tearing apart. Her skin shimmered brighter now, as if fire lived beneath her flesh. She curled into herself and gasped for air. Elias knelt beside her. He felt her forehead again, burning hot. "Are you sick?" She didn't respond. Her body shook as if something powerful moved inside her. Her eyes opened wide, glowing brighter than ever. For a moment, it felt like the air around her pulsed with invisible energy. Elias grabbed more water. He tried to cool her down. She whispered something in her language, words he couldn't understand. Her face looked pained, her body trembling. He wrapped another blanket around her, not knowing what else to do. As the fire cracked in the background, he watched her glowing veins pulse softly beneath her skin. She was beautiful, otherworldly, and clearly not just a visitor from another place. She was something far more complicated. But Elias didn't know the truth yet. He didn't know her body was reacting to something her species could not control. He didn't know that what was happening wasn't sickness. It was instinct. It was the start of her mating season. And he had no idea what that would mean for either of them. The storm passed by morning, but the sky remained gray. Snow covered the trees like a heavy blanket. Inside the cabin, the fire had burned low. Elias added more wood and watched the flames rise again. Sailari lay curled on the couch, sleeping. Her skin no longer glowed as brightly as before, but her face still showed pain. Every few minutes, she shifted, whispering words in her language. Elias sat nearby with a notebook in hand. He had once been a soldier, later a mechanic, then a husband, a father. Now he was just a man with a cabin, alone in the woods, writing about an alien girl glowing on his couch. He wrote down everything, her temperature, her words, her strange markings. Not because he wanted to report her. He had no one to report her to. He just needed to understand. Around noon, she opened her eyes. Todd Elias stood slowly. "How are you feeling?" She blinked. Her silver hair fell across her face. She sat up, hugging the blanket close. "Cold," she whispered. He nodded, brought her tea. She took the cup with both hands and drank slowly. After a moment, she spoke again. "Thank you." He gave her a small smile. "You're welcome." They sat in silence. The fire cracked. Snow fell gently outside. The world felt still. Then she looked at him with serious eyes. "My body, changing." Elias frowned. "Changing how?" Sailari looked down at her hands. "Cycle, female, of my kind. It begins." He leaned forward. "Is that why you were in pain last night?" She nodded. Double quotes. "Yes, I try to stop it, but it's coming. Soon." Elias didn't know what to say. He had no knowledge of alien biology, but he knew what fear looked like, and she was afraid. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out." She looked at him, eyes shining with something he couldn't name. "You help me, but why?" He leaned back in his chair. "Because you're alone, and I know what that feels like." That night, she helped him cook. She didn't know much, but she copied what he did. She laughed when the potatoes burned. He laughed too. It had been years since he had done that. After dinner, he showed her his books. Old science fiction, pictures of stars and distant planets. She pointed to one with glowing rings. "My world was like this," she whispered. "But gone now." Her voice cracked. Elias closed the book. "I'm sorry." She nodded slowly. "They destroyed it. My people. My planet. I escaped. I ran, but now I'm last." She looked away, hiding her tears. Elias didn't speak. He walked over, placed a hand gently on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. Her body felt warm beneath the fabric. For a long moment, they stood like that, quiet, still. Later, she sat near the fire, wrapped in the blanket. Elias made tea again. She watched him, her head tilted slightly. "You miss someone too," she said. He paused. Double quotes. "Yes, my daughter." She nodded. "I." See it in your eyes." He gave her the tea and sat beside her. "She died years ago. In a war. I couldn't protect her." Solari reached out slowly and touched his hand. "You protect me." He looked at her. Her touch was soft, warm. It felt like something familiar and strange all at once. For the first time, Elias felt something break open inside him. A wall he had kept up for so long. A feeling he thought had died with his past. He didn't say anything. He just let her hold his hand. That night, as they slept in separate rooms, Solari woke up suddenly. Her skin glowed gold again. She covered her mouth to stop the sound escaping her throat. Her body burned, not from fever, but from something deep inside, a pull, a need. Her cycle was getting stronger. She stood, walked to the door of Elias's room. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle. But she didn't enter. Instead, she whispered his name, Elias. She turned and walked back to the couch, wrapped herself tightly in the blanket, and cried silently. She had never bonded before. Her kind only did it once in their lifetime. One bond, one partner, no second chances. And now her instincts were choosing someone, a human, an old man, a kind soul who had saved her, but who didn't understand what she was. Solari pressed her hand to her chest. The glow beneath her skin pulsed gently. She had to leave before it was too late, before the cycle made the choice permanent. But where could she go? In the morning, Elias found her sitting outside in the snow, staring at the trees. "You'll freeze." "Out here," he said, stepping toward her. She didn't move. "I'm dangerous, Elias." He knelt beside her. "No, you're scared. That's different." She looked at him. Her eyes filled with a strange kind of sadness. "My body, it wants something, but my heart doesn't know if it's right." Elias sighed. "Then stay until you do." She blinked slowly. "You trust me?" He smiled faintly. "Yes, and I think you're starting to trust me too." She stood slowly, and he helped her brush the snow off her clothes. As they walked back to the cabin, her fingers brushed his by accident. She looked down at their hands. He did too. Neither said anything. But in that quiet touch, something had changed. The bond hadn't formed, but the heart had started to open. Snow still covered the forest, but something else had changed. The silence that once felt peaceful now carried a strange weight, a sense that they were not alone anymore. Elias woke early. The sky outside was pale gray. Solari was already sitting by the window. She had not slept all night. Her eyes watched the trees with a quiet fear. He brought her a cup of tea. "You didn't sleep." She shook her head. "There's something out there." Elias looked through the window, but saw nothing unusual. "Animals, maybe." She turned to him slowly. "No, not animals. Signals." Elias frowned. "What kind of signals?" Solari walked to the door and opened it. She stepped outside and pointed at the edge of the trees. He followed her there. Carved into the bark of one of the tall pine trees were glowing symbols. They pulsed softly, with a light too unnatural to be human. Elias touched the bark. It felt warm, almost alive. "I didn't see these yesterday," he said. "They came in the night," she whispered. "They are from my kind, but not from my people." Elias looked at her, confused. "There's a difference." She nodded slowly. "Some of my species. They were exiled, violent, without honor. They chase the scent of females and cycle. They take what isn't given." Her voice shook. Elias felt his chest tighten. He looked back at the symbols. "Can they track you?" Solari nodded again. "Yes. My body releases signals during the cycle, invisible to you, loud to them." Elias cursed under his breath. The forest no longer felt safe. Back in the cabin, he dug through an old metal box under his bed. It was filled with tools, wires, and traps. He had once been a soldier. He still remembered how to set a perimeter. "Help me mark the borders," he said. Together, they placed tripwires, hidden bells, and small motion sensors around the cabin. As they worked, Sailori kept glancing toward the trees. Her body glowed. Faintly now, her cycle was growing stronger, but she stayed close to Elias, drawn to him by something she didn't fully understand. Later that day, they shared a simple meal. Sailori picked up new words quickly. Her voice was clearer now, softer. She had started using his name more often. Elias, she said, smiling. Your name means strong one in my language. He chuckled. Maybe once, not these days. She shook her head. You protect, you stay, you fight for me. That is strength. Their eyes met again. A silence grew between them, not empty, just full of unspoken words. Elias stood and walked to the window. The sun was already setting. We need to be careful tonight. Sailori stood too. I will not let them take me. I would rather burn. He turned to her. No one's taking you. Not while I'm still breathing. She stepped closer. I know. That's why I feel safe. That's why this is harder. He looked at her, saw the pain behind her eyes, the fear, the desire. What's harder? She looked down, controlling it. My body, my feelings, around you. Elias didn't speak. The room felt warmer now, not from the fire, from something else. She placed a hand on her chest. My kind. We only bond once, but we don't choose with our mind. We choose with our soul. The bond starts when the heart feels safe. Elias stared at her. And your heart feels safe here. She looked up, eyes shining. Yes, he felt his own chest tighten. He hadn't felt this way in years. Not since his wife. Not since everything fell apart. But now this strange girl from another world had entered his life. And somehow, he wasn't alone anymore. I don't know what this means, he said softly. She nodded. I don't either, but I know it's real. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, holding his old rifle. Watching the shadows outside the window, Sailori lay on the couch, covered in a blanket. Her breathing was calm, but her glow was brighter now. The cycle was reaching its peak. She whispered in her sleep. Words in her language. Elias didn't understand them, but the tone was full of longing and sadness. He looked down at the rifle in his hands. He had protected people before. He had fought in wars, lost friends, lost family. But this was different. This time, it wasn't about duty. It was about someone who had trusted him. Someone who saw him not as an old man, but as someone worth staying for. Just before dawn, something triggered one of the bells outside. Elias stood. Instantly, another bell rang. Then a motion light blinked, red. He grabbed his coat and stepped outside with the rifle in hand. The snow was untouched, but the feeling in the air had changed. He scanned the trees. Nothing. Then he saw it. A glowing mark on a new tree. Fresh. Still pulsing. They were getting closer. He returned to the cabin and locked the door. We don't have much time, he said. Sailori stood behind him, now fully awake. Her eyes were wide. She had felt it too. She walked to the window. They're here. Elias looked at her. Her skin shimmered gold, brighter than ever before. She was beautiful, dangerous, powerful, but still scared. Still someone's daughter. Still someone who didn't ask for this. He walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll fight them together. She turned to him. Her voice was barely a whisper. Will you stay with me, even if my body bonds to you? He didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. Double quotes, yes, I will. Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't cry. She simply leaned forward and rested her forehead against his chest. And for a moment, the glowing pulse inside her slowed. Calm, steady, safe. The snowstorm had passed, but a deeper storm was building inside the cabin. Not of wind or ice, but of emotions, memories, and something ancient. something neither of them fully understood. Elias stood at the edge of the forest, eyes scanning. The trees, the glowing marks were spreading. He could feel it in his bones. Something was getting closer, watching, waiting, behind him. Sailari stood in silence, her silver hair moving gently in the breeze. Her skin shimmered with a soft golden light, the same light that had been growing stronger every night. She looked tired, not just in body, but in spirit. "Elias," she said quietly, "we don't have much time." He turned to her. "You keep saying that. What happens if they find you?" She looked down at her glowing hands. "They don't just take females like me. They claim us, force a bond. If they succeed, I lose everything. My mind, my heart, my freedom." Elias clenched his jaw. He hated how calm she sounded when she said that. "You're not going anywhere," he said. She met his eyes. "Then you have to understand something. My cycle, it's almost complete. If I don't bond by choice, my body will collapse under the pressure. I'll fade." Elias stared at her, stunned. "You mean, die?" She nodded once. "Not just my body, my soul too. Our bond is not like yours. It's not just love, it's survival." Elias stepped closer. "Then why haven't you bonded with me yet?" She looked away. "Because I don't want to trap you. Your life, your world. This was never meant to happen. You didn't choose this." He stepped closer again. Slowly, carefully, double quotes. "No, I didn't choose this. But I chose to help you. I chose to stay. Every single day since you got here." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. He continued. "I lost my daughter years ago. She was brave, kind, the best part of me. When I lost her, I shut the door on. The world locked it, swallowed the key." He took a breath. "But then you crashed into my life literally, and now, for the first time in years, I feel like I matter again." Sailari stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. "You do matter. To me." They stood close now, so close he could feel the warmth from her skin. It was more than warmth. It was like standing beside a rising sun. She reached out, hesitated, then gently placed her fingers against his chest, right over his heart. His breath caught in his throat. Her touch was light, but the impact was deep. Her skin glowed brighter, gold, then white, then soft blue. She looked up at him. This is how the bond begins, with touch, but only if it's returned. Elias placed his hand over hers. The moment their hands met, something passed between them, a wave of heat and light. Not physical, not visible, but real. Elias felt a rush of memories. Not his own, hers, a bright planet with purple skies. Towers made of crystal, laughter, joy, then war, fire, screams, escape. He gasped. Sailari's voice was soft. "This is my truth. I share it with you now." He pulled her gently into his arms. She didn't resist. She melted into him like she belonged there. For a long time, they didn't move. The bond had not fully formed, but it had awakened. That night, they sat near the fire. Sailari leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Elias stared at the flames. "I don't know what this will cost me," he said. She nodded. "I don't know what it will cost me either, but I do know," he continued, "that I won't let them take you, no matter what happens." She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly. "You're already stronger than most warriors I've known." He chuckled softly. "I'm just an old man with a rusty rifle." She smiled. "Maybe, but to me, you're something more." Later that night, she tried to sleep, but the heat inside her body returned. Fiercer now, more demanding. Her skin glowed so brightly she had to cover herself with a thick blanket just to dim the light. She bit her lip, grit her teeth, fought against her own body. She couldn't risk bonding completely. Not yet. Not unless Elias truly wanted it. Not unless he was ready. She stood and walked outside. Snow fell softly. The moon was full. She looked up at the sky and whispered words in her language, words of pain, of longing, of fear. Then a sound broke the silence, a crunch in the snow. She turned quickly. A shadow stood at the edge of the trees, tall, broad, eyes glowing red. Another figure appeared beside it, and another. She stepped back slowly. Her breath turned to mist in the cold air. They had arrived, the hunters. She ran back to the cabin, heart pounding. "Elias," she called. He sat up at once, grabbed his rifle. "They're here," she whispered. He looked into her eyes. There was no panic, only calm, focus. "Then it's time we make our stand." The forest was no longer silent. Shadows moved between the trees, shapes too large to be human. Their eyes glowed like embers in the dark, slow and steady. They made no sound, yet their presence pressed down on the air like a heavy weight. Inside the cabin, Elias loaded the last shell into his old hunting rifle. His hands were steady, his breath calm. Years of discipline returned to him, sharp and ready. Solari stood beside the window, her glowing hands trembling slightly. "They're testing the edge," she whispered, looking for weakness, scenting the air. Elias nodded. "How many?" She closed her eyes for a moment, sensing. 3, maybe 4. All male, all from the exiled kind. He placed the rifle beside the door and turned to her. "You said they bond by force." She looked down, double quotes. "Yes, they don't wait for consent. Once physical contact is made, the bond begins. If I resist, it becomes unstable. If it's completed, I'm theirs, forever." He took a slow breath. "And if I bond with you first?" She looked at him, her voice soft. "Then I become yours, fully. The others can't touch me, but the bond must be real, complete, mind, body, soul." Elias stared at her. He saw fear in her eyes, not just for herself, but for him, for what the bond might cost them both. "I'm not afraid of them," he said. "I'm only afraid of not choosing when I had the chance." She stepped closer. "You don't have to do this, Elias. My feelings, they're strong. But you didn't ask for this. I won't trap you in a bond made by pressure." He touched her hand gently. "I don't feel trapped. I feel alive. Since you came here, I've remembered who I used to be. And more than that, I felt something I thought I buried with my past." Her eyes filled with light, not just the glow from her skin, but something deeper, warmer. "Then there's something you need to see," she said. She walked to the center of the room and knelt on the floor. From the pouch she carried, she pulled a small device made from parts of her broken ship. It looked like a silver stone, smooth and alive. She placed it on the floor. Elias stepped back, watching. She pressed her fingers into its surface. The device lit up. A soft hum filled the cabin. A beam of pale blue light rose into the air, projecting symbols and images between them. Her memories, images of her home world, a sky with 3 suns, a sea that glowed at night, her people dancing beneath floating lights, her laughter with friends, her parents' faces. Then came the fire, ships falling from the sky, screams, buildings crumbling. She showed him the escape pod, the crash, her loneliness, the pain of losing everything. The vision faded, and silence returned. Elias stood still, heart heavy. "You lost your whole world," he whispered. She looked at him, her voice breaking. "I don't want to lose this one too." He crossed the room slowly and knelt in front of her. "Then let's fight for it, together." She reached for his hand. This time, when their skin touched, the bond deepened. Her glow spread to him, wrapping around his chest, his arms, his face. But it wasn't fire. It was warmth, comfort, peace. Their minds touched, not with words, but with emotion. He saw her heart, broken, but still beating, still brave. She saw his soul, worn down, but full of strength. The bond had begun. A wave of soft light filled the room. The air shimmered. Her body steadied. Her glow softened into a gentle pulse. But outside, the hunters had noticed. They howled. A deep, awful sound that echoed through the trees like thunder. They know, she whispered. They feel the bond. They will try to break it. Elias stood and grabbed his rifle. They'll have to kill me first. They stood together at the door. The cabin lights flickered as energy pulsed through Solari's body. Now stabilized, her strength returned. She was faster than any human, sharper, but she wasn't invincible. Not alone. Elias opened a small panel near the fireplace and pulled out an old, military-grade stun mine. One last piece of the man he used to be. He smiled at her. I told you I wasn't just a rusty old man. She smiled back, eyes glowing. Then let's make our last stand. They stepped outside into the snow. The trees were still, but the danger crept closer with every heartbeat. Elias moved quickly, placing traps, setting charges, marking angles of fire. Solari moved beside him, whispering to the trees. Her voice caused the snow to lift, tiny particles dancing around her fingers. They're here, she said. 3 dark shapes appeared between the trees, each one larger than Elias, covered in black armor. Their eyes burned red. They walked slowly, confident, like predators closing in on cornered prey. The largest one stepped forward. He spoke in a low, growling voice. She is not yours. Release her. Elias raised his rifle. She chose. That's all that matters. The alien growled louder. Then you will die first. Without warning, they charged. Elias fired. The blast hit the lead attacker square in the chest. The alien staggered, but kept coming. Solari leaped forward, spinning in the air, kicking one across the jaw with inhuman force. The trap mines exploded beneath their feet, throwing snow and flame into the air. It was chaos, light and sound and motion. But through it all, Elias and Solari moved as one, bound now, fighting not just for survival, but for each other. Together, one heart, one bond. The battle had ended, but the night was far from quiet. Smoke curled into the frozen air. The trees stood black and still, their branches broken and burned. Snowflakes drifted gently through the wreckage, falling on the bodies of the 3 alien hunters. Their glowing eyes were dark now, their armor cracked. Their threat ended. Elias stood near the edge of the forest, rifle still in hand. His breath came slow and heavy. Blood ran down his left arm, but he didn't seem to notice. Behind him, Solari knelt beside one of the fallen attackers. Her glowing fingers hovered over the hunter's chest, then slowly pulled back. They won't rise again, she said. Elias gave a tired nod. Good. He turned to face her. Her body shimmered with light, softer now, controlled, but her expression showed something deeper. Not relief, not victory, sadness. He walked over and sat beside her on a broken tree trunk. They were like you, once. She nodded slowly. Yes, same blood, same power, but no honor. Their hearts turned cold. They believed strength meant ownership. That bonding was a right, not a gift. She looked up at the sky. They chased females across galaxies, took what they wanted. That's why they were cast out. Elias lowered his gaze. You didn't choose this fight. No, she said, but I was born with the fire. I couldn't run forever. She stood, and her legs shook slightly. Elias moved to help her, but she waved him off with a small smile. I'm all right. Just tired. Together, they returned to the cabin. Inside, the warmth of the fire greeted them, but it felt smaller now. Quieter. Elias sat by the fire, cleaning his wound. Solari wrapped a cloth around his arm and held it in place. You're hurt because of me. He shook his head. I'm alive because of you. She paused. We're bonded now. That means your pain. I feel it too. He looked at her gently. Then I'll try not to hurt so much. She smiled at that. but it faded quickly. "There's something else you need to know," she said. Elias raised an eyebrow. "More bad news." She hesitated. "No, but it's important." She sat on the floor across from him, the fire between them. "When the bond is complete, it gives me life. But it also gives me something else. Something dangerous." Elias leaned forward. "Go on." "My kind were built for war, long ago. We were designed to bond with those we trust. When that bond forms, it unlocks the last part of us, our final phase power unlike anything you've seen." Elias narrowed his eyes. "That what happened out there?" She nodded, double quotes, "Yes. When we fought together, I felt it begin. I moved faster, stronger. I felt your heartbeat beside mine. It made me unstoppable." Elias leaned back. "And what happens now?" She looked down. "If the bond holds, I become something new, something rare, but the cost is real." He frowned. "What cost?" She looked at him, tears forming in her eyes. "Your body. It's not built for this bond. Not completely. If I stay too long, if we get too close, you may burn from the inside." Elias went silent. The fire cracked between them. Outside, the wind blew softly against the walls of the cabin. She continued, "I didn't tell you before because I hoped it wouldn't happen. I thought maybe the bond would stay light. But after tonight," he nodded slowly, "it's stronger now, and we're linked." "Yes," she said. "If we go further, if we become one fully, it might kill you." She stood and turned away. "That's why I must leave." Elias stood too. "You think I fought beside you, just to lose you now?" She faced him. "I won't be the reason you die." He walked closer. "I already died once, the day I lost my daughter. You brought me back to life." Her eyes shined brighter. "I didn't mean to, but you did," he said. "And now I choose this, even if it burns, even if it breaks me." She placed a hand on his chest. "You don't understand how painful it can be." "I do," he whispered. "I've lived with pain for years, but I've never felt what I feel now. I won't give that up." Her body shook. Her skin glowed gold, then white, then soft blue dot. Her voice cracked. "Then come with me. We need to complete the bond. Fully. I have a way. My pod holds a device. It can help you adapt to the energy. It might save you." Elias smiled faintly. "Might." She nodded. "No promises. But it's better than waiting to burn." They walked into the forest one last time, past the broken trees, past the ashes of their enemies, to the place where her ship had first fallen. It was hidden beneath the snow, but she uncovered it with a wave of her hand. Metal panels blinked to life. Soft alien music hummed from within. She stepped inside first, then reached for Elias. "This part will hurt. You need to be willing." "Completely." "I am," he said without hesitation. She touched his forehead. The light from her hand spread across his skin, entering his body. He gasped, but didn't pull away. He saw her memories again, felt her heartbeat, her joy, her pain. Then he felt her love, real deep, unshakable. The bond completed. The light around them turned white, then golden, then vanished into the air like dust. Elias collapsed to his knees, gasping. His chest burned, but not in pain. In power. He looked up at her, and for a moment, their eyes glowed the same. He was still human, but now, something inside him had changed. They were one. Morning light poured through the trees. Snow glistened like 1,000 tiny stars across the forest floor. But near the broken crash site, a new kind of silence had settled. Not cold, not empty, peaceful. Inside the pod, Elias lay on the floor, breathing slow and steady. His eyes were closed, his body still. Solari knelt beside him, her hands glowing faintly as they hovered above his chest. "Breathe," she whispered. A spark of light passed from her fingers to his heart. He gasped. His eyes opened. She let out a cry of relief and wrapped her arms around him. "You came back," she whispered. Elias coughed, then smiled faintly. "Never left, just took the long way around." He sat up slowly. His body felt different. Lighter, stronger, but not in a human way. There was something inside him now, a rhythm that matched hers. A connection he couldn't explain, but felt with every breath. "I thought you said this might kill me." "He said that." She looked down. "It nearly did, but your body adapted. You're stronger than I thought." He reached for her hand. Or maybe the bond protected me. Their fingers intertwined. No glow, no fire, just warmth. Real and steady. Outside the pod, the forest felt brighter. The sky clearer. The danger had passed, but the world still waited for their next step. They walked back to the cabin together, side by side. Two souls tied by something deeper than words. As they entered, Elias looked around at the place that had once been his prison of memories. Now it felt like home again. Celery sat on the couch, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. He poured 2 cups of tea, and handed her one. She smiled. "You make this better than my people ever did." He chuckled. "We don't have glowing fruit, or sky herbs, just leaves and boiling water." "It's perfect," she said softly. They sipped in silence for a while. Then she turned to him, serious. "What happens now?" He looked at the window. Snow still drifted down, but the storm was gone. "We rebuild. We live. We keep going." She hesitated. "You'd stay with me, even like this, even knowing what's inside you now." He looked at her gently. "What's inside me is part of you. That's the part I want most." She reached for his hand. "There's more." He nodded. "I figured." She stood and walked to the center of the room, closed her eyes. Her body began to glow again, but this time, it was controlled. A soft pulse. Her voice changed to calm, deep, full of purpose. "When the bond completes, I evolve. But not just in strength. My mind, my senses, my time." Elias frowned. "Time." She nodded slowly. "My species doesn't age the way yours does. With the bond, your body is now tied to mine. Your time, it will slow." He stared at her. "You mean I'll live longer?" "Yes. Maybe centuries. Maybe more." He blinked. Took a slow breath. "And what if I said I didn't want that?" She looked away. "Then the bond weakens, slowly, and one day it breaks. We survive, but we forget." He stepped closer. "I don't want to forget. Not you. Not this." She met his eyes. "Then we face the unknown together." He smiled. "Good, because I'm not done living yet." They stepped outside into the cold. The sky had cleared. Birds moved between the trees. The scent of pine hung in the air. Elias looked at the forest. "Maybe we plant something." She raised an eyebrow. "Plant." He nodded. "A garden. A new beginning." She smiled. "I've never planted anything before." "Then we'll learn," he said. They spent the day gathering supplies, clearing space, talking about stars and memories, laughing, planning. As the sun began to set, they stood side by side, watching the sky turn gold and red. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I never thought I'd find peace here, among your kind." He rested his hand on hers. "You didn't find peace with my kind. You found it with me." She looked up at him. "And you found it with me." They kissed, not rushed, not burning, just soft, true. The stars came out one by one. Above them, the universe stretched wide and endless. But in that small place on Earth, 2 beings from different worlds had found something stronger than survival. They had found each other, and now, their future waited. Not written by fate, but chosen by love.